All right, welcome to Out of the Blue from the Block and Podcast Network, part of the Fan First Sports Network. Calm, kindness, kinship, love. We've given up all at a chance at inner peace. We've made our mind a sunless space. We share our dreams with ghosts. Wake up every day to an equation I wrote 15 years ago from which there's only one conclusion. We're damned for what we podcast about. I am Jared Stormer with you going solo yet again here on Out of the Blue. Producer Tony with me on the ones and twos. Glad to have him. Got you here solo for the all segment episode. Can't wait for this one. When the cat is away, the mice will play. I would say that Andy tolerates my segments. I don't know if he loves them, but he's not here. So he's getting every segment all in one. It's a great way. We're going to talk some Michigan football. We're going to talk some Michigan basketball, a little Pistons corner in here. We're going to cover a lot of ground. So if you hear me taking a break to have a sip of my wine, it is necessary. This is going to be the stuff of legends, like a trapeze artist who takes away the net. I'm going to attempt death-defying things here tonight on this podcast. Let's get into it, shall we? And touch the banner. I was off last week, so some of this news from last week, apologize on that. Had some internet issues and just couldn't make it happen. So some of this you probably already know. But nonetheless, we've had two commitments since we last podcasted. 2027 four-star offensive tackle Jakari Lipsey committed to Michigan. 6'5", 290 pounds out of Kalamazoo. We love our Kalamazoo boys. Had offers from LSU, Wisconsin, Auburn, 20-plus more offering this guy. So pretty solid four-star there. And at 6'5", 290, absolutely love this. Ranked 66 nationally. He's number 2 player in the state of Michigan. The best players in Michigan go to Michigan. Love keeping this guy at home. Also just love, like, if you're an offensive lineman and you're above 6'3", play tackle. I think that's just the way things are going. If there's a real chance that you can go D1, or, I mean, especially if you think like there's possibly NFL future for you, it makes sense to just learn the tackle position. You're seeing so many more of these guys kick inside. And at 6'5", like that's pretty big, but we've seen 6'5" guards before. The reason I mention this is there's a lot of tackle depth on Michigan right now. And obviously some of these guys will cycle out by the time Jakari's in there and ready to go. But the fact that he's at tackle now, I'm excited about this and keeping him home out of Kalamazoo. Additionally, one of the things that I had mentioned in a previous pod was like, are we sure Kyle Whittingham's going to be able to recruit in the Midwest? Doesn't really have a footprint there. We'd seen some guys, the quarterback from Utah in his previous footprint, but this is tremendous to go into Michigan and keep this guy home. It's a great start. And continuing on that trend, 6'5", 225-pound four-star defensive end Jace Brewer commits to the Wolverines. Wolverines beat out Kentucky, Auburn, Purdue, Indiana, Tennessee for this kid. High four-star, again, I mean, very big. He's number 361 overall in the country, number 33 edge rusher, and number 9 player in Indiana. So maybe a middle-of-the-road four-star, not a high four-star there, but we'll see what he does with his senior season and where he goes. But I certainly love the measurables. That's very exciting there. And again, going into Indiana, going into the Midwest, starting to expand that footprint. This is a great start by Whittingham and his crew. And I know some people were kind of lamenting where we were at as far as like, where is this class at? Guys, it is May 11th when we're recording this here. Like, I'm not too worried about football recruiting as of right now. Add in the transfer portal and what I think, this program is going to be able to do with the transfer portal. I'm really not that worried about it. Michigan's still outside of the top 10 as far as overall team rankings via 247. But moving up a little bit, they're at 30 right now. All it's going to take is one or two more, get them up into the top 25. I think you just need to be like top 15 anymore, and then add some really great transfers, and you can be in title contention, and you can certainly be in playoff contention there. So no need to panic. These are two great additions. Very great as far as size. So starting to get an idea of what Whittingham and the staff are looking for with their players. Another commitment, switching over to basketball now, going the other way. Juke Harris commits to Tennessee. The guard/forward who was considering Michigan started to trend towards Tennessee. When we had Kellen on a few weeks ago, we kind of expressed that we thought that this is where this was going. Michigan has solidified their roster and filled in some spots very well. There are shot makers and shot takers aplenty on this Michigan team. So I don't necessarily know that we needed a high volume shooter to come in. I think that Cadeau, McKennie, and McCoy can take up a lot of those shots. If Kaysen can get back, you're good to go. You don't necessarily need a guy like this. I love that Tennessee fans were trying to get after Michigan fans on the interwebs, being like, "Oh, you're down bad." I'm like, what is your memory? How long is your memory, sir? Like, we beat you by 33 en route to a national title. I assure you, we're good. But Hugh Karras, wish him the best over at Tennessee. Michigan will be just fine. That probably solidifies the roster. So go back and listen to that discussion we had with Kellen a few weeks ago. If you want our takes on the roster, that is very likely what we're going to have, barring some Morez Johnson drops out of the draft news, which I don't see happening. Had the lottery over the weekend, starting to get an idea of where some of these guys are going to go, and with some of the dropouts, I would guess, if you made me guess right now, Mara top 10, Lendenborg top 15, Morez Johnson top 25. I think they all three go in the first round. In fact, I would be willing to bet on that. Adai Mara measured a 9.9 standing reach at the NBA draft combine today. That's the second longest standing reach in NBA combine history, behind Taco Fall, who is just a gadget player, not a real NBA player. Daimara is a real NBA player. He is going to fly up these boards. I think he's the first center taken, and whoever's going to get him is going to get a real game changer. Pistons, a little sign and trade there. Maybe trade Jalen Duren, move up in the draft, take a Daimara ready-made replacement. Just saying. I'm just saying. We'll get to a Pistons corner here in just a minute. A little Tigers news here. I'd worry about the state of Detroit sports. Thank God the Pistons came back from down 3-1, because this was all kind of happening at the same time. Tariq Skubal will undergo surgery to remove loose bodies in his left elbow. Could be 2 to 3 months. I heard this was a lesser form of the injury, so it could be a couple weeks, but there are so many injuries to this Tigers pitching staff right now. So everything's kind of muddled up in their division. Everybody's pretty close, but if they don't have Tariq, I just don't know what can be expected from them. So it's so early in an ungodly long season. I won't write off the Tigers just yet, but they've got to get healthy there. And that brings us back, Pistons corner, because last time we talked about this, we were still playing against the Magic, and things were not going well. We were down 3-1, and what a comeback. I was a Pistons fan the first time we came back from down 3-1 with the guaranteed, we will win game 5. We will win game 5. I was watching when that happened. Not as verbose or as boisterous of a Pistons team. There were no guarantees, but they never lost their resolve. Came back from down 3-1. One of the craziest comebacks in game 2, where it looked like they were absolutely down and out. I think it was like a 23-point comeback, and they held the Magic to just some silly shooting numbers in that one, and moved on to face the Cleveland Cavaliers. Took care of home court. We're up 2, lost the Saturday game in a close one. Like, they easily could have gone up 3 in that one, but now as it stands, it's 2-1. They play tonight on Monday, May 11th, in a big game. If they go up 3-1, you can pretty much start to wrap this up and prepare for the Eastern Conference Finals against the Knicks, who will wait them. If not, it goes 2-2, this could be a battle. This could be a 7-gamer. Obviously, Detroit has home court throughout this series, and depending on who they play in the finals, could have it throughout the entire playoffs with how well they set themselves up. But this is a big one tonight. I don't think it was a very good JB Bickerstaff game, the last one. And then Cade Cunningham with some bad turnovers late. Did have a triple-double. He's the whole reason we were even in the game. But some bad turnovers late. Asar Thompson not on the court late. Putting Tobias Harris on James Harden, who's was able to turn back the clock for a couple of minutes there, rather than putting Asar or Ron Holland or somebody on him. So I think they'll adjust, and I expect a really strong effort from the Pistons tonight. And Game 5 Wednesday, Game 6 Friday, if needed. This has been a successful season for the Detroit Pistons, full stop. This is exactly where I had us at the start of the year. I was like, you got to get a little further in the playoffs. We need some more data. You got to be competitive in the second round. But now when you're up on Cleveland and how close these games have been, I think you got to finish this now. I think you got to move to the Eastern Conference Finals against an opponent that you have familiarity with, that you swept in the regular season, that you really know you can out physical, and they're feeling great about themselves right now, the New York Knicks. I don't think they want any piece of this Pistons team. So huge game tonight on Monday. By the time you listen to this, you'll probably know the results of that game. All right, let's get into this, Tony. It's time. The all segment episode. So we've had over the course of the 7 years we've been doing this, we've been doing this for a long time. A lot of segments. Some of them come and go, some of them stick around, some more popular than others, but I'm a segment man. So we're doing every single one of them that I can think of here on this one. And it's going to be a great way. We're going to talk about some relevant topics here. And let's start with an oldie but a goodie. What the hell is going on? All right, what the hell is going on? It is official. College basketball expanding the NCAA tournament. Now the NCAA men's tournament is expanding from 68 teams to 76 beginning next season, solving a problem that didn't exist with something nobody asked for. This would be like if all of a sudden Big Hot Dog came out and was like, from now on, all hot dog buns are going to be sold with handles. We're going to mandate handles on hot dog buns across America. They're going to be sold in packs of 36. They're going to come in a wooden crate that you have to order online, and you have to eat them with the assigned handles moving forward. What problem are you solving? Who asked for this? The people that are going to make it into the tournament that previously didn't ask for this. The mothers and fathers of the teams that are going to make it into the tournament are bummed by this. Like, now we got to go watch our son as a 17 seed get absolutely housed by Michigan or Duke. Congratulations. The only people this helps are the fat cats that continue to bastardize our sports and make them worse by just doing whatever it takes for the almighty dollar. Like, nobody wants this. Nobody asked for this. So according to the NCAA tournament committee rankings, the additional teams that would have made it into last year's tournament, I'm not going to go through all of them. Oklahoma at 19 and 15. They were 7 and 11 in the SEC. Auburn at 17 and 16. That's a 500 team at 7 and 11 in the SEC would have made it. Indiana at 18 and 14, 9 and 11 in the Big Ten. You're telling me teams with losing records in conference are going to make this tournament? That is stupid. It is silly. It should not happen. Nobody wants this. And there's data to back this up here. Top seeds, number one seeds, all time, 162 and 2. There was the was it FDU versus Purdue in 2023. Was only the second time it happens. So there's a massive winning percentage for 16 seeds. And now you're going to add a 17th seed. So that number is going to be even more diminished. I mean, it might not happen for the first 20 years of the tournament. Legitimately, you might not see a 17 over a 1 seed. Going on to those games, no game has been decided by one possession since 1996 in these 16-1 games. The highest scoring matchup was in 1987, 113 to 82. The lowest score in a 116 game is 99 points, which has happened twice. So what I'm saying with all this data is, like, these games aren't that good. And now you are muddying the waters and diminishing the quality. 15-2 upsets, or 15 seeds versus 2 seeds upsets, are 5.5 times more likely, but that's only happened 11 times. So, like, even that is unlikely. And now you're also talking about taking college football to 24 teams. Nobody likes it. Nobody's asking for it. We need a sport czar to step in and stop this, because it is incrementally making the product worse, and I hate it. What the hell's going on? All right, that's segment number 1. Segment number 2, coming at you. This is a fun one. I don't know that Andy and I have done too much of this segment. And this one is straight up stolen from Bill Simmons at The Ringer. Shout out to them. Very good at what they do. So it is an homage. It is not thievery. This one's called Truth Serum. If you gave this player or this person truth serum, what would they say? So first one I'm going to do here, I've mentioned this many times on the podcast. If you gave Trajan Langdon truth serum, would he admit to the fact that he should have made a more aggressive move at the trade deadline? I absolutely think that he would, but if you asked him outright, he would be resolute in saying that, like, no, we needed to see what these guys have. Like, look at what Tobias Harris has become. Brother, you didn't know. Tobias Harris didn't know that Tobias Harris was going to be doing this in the playoffs. And you're relying on Dennis Jenkins to be that third option, sometimes the second option, when you could have got an Io DeSunmu, a Kobe White, an Anthony Simons, and Cade is looking gassed late in these games because he has the highest usage. He has the most points, the most field goal attempts. He has the most assists in the playoffs. But you are just putting so much on his plate. And I mean, we're not winning the title. That's not happening. But we still might make it to the Eastern Conference Finals. So then he can just look at everyone that says you should have made a move and be like, see, I was right. But if you gave him true serum, perfect is the enemy of good. Like, we should have tried to make a real move to improve. Kevin Herter's been injured, but even when he was healthy, he couldn't really get on the floor. That was a pretty nothing burger move. Now, he did make the Ivy trade to move up 7 spots in the draft, and that could be big. Let's see who's available there at that spot, or maybe you can move up even further and get somebody that can help take some of the ball handling and scoring off of Cade's plate. But it's got to happen, man. And this is year 5, and no one has really made an effort. None of the GMs that we've had to go out and get him some help. Truth serum number 2. If you gave Kyle Whittingham truth serum, would he have just brought in like a mild splash transfer quarterback that fit what he wanted to do this year? Maybe like who Indiana bring in, like a Josh Hoover, somebody middle of the road that's like not crazy amounts of pressure, not nationally recognized. The amount of pressure on him and on Jason Beck and Coy Detmer to get Bryce Underwood up to speed and to be a good quarterback this year is extremely high. And I don't know that that's what he wanted to sign up for. Look what he did last year with Devin Dampier. Not a heralded name, but he ran the hell out of him and he really improved him. And there wasn't that kind of pressure on him. Now there's a different level of pressure. There's NIL money. There's this guy's the face of the franchise. There's all this stuff. And he's probably, even if, no one's going to come out and Ward Manuel's not going to come out and say, you've got to play him as your quarterback. I'm sure he feels that pressure that like, we've got to find a way to make Bryce Underwood work. Like there's too many people counting on it. Like the Michigan fan base is bought in on this guy. We're spending a lot of money on this guy. I bet if you gave Kyle Whittingham true serum, he probably would just wash his hands of that, bring in his own guy, and start fresh there. Now that ship has sailed. It's too late for that, but I bet he would ask. I would bet he would agree to that. All right, let's take a quick break. When we come back, I got more segments for you. I'm throwing segments at you. I'm throwing gasoline here today. Be right back after this. All right, we are back. We are Righteous Men. The all segment episode is very good. We are doing nothing but segments here, covering a lot of ground. Another segment, we introduced this one, I want to say 2 seasons ago, when we wanted to start talking about some of the freshmen that have a chance to see the field. Sometimes we'll go deep and talk about freshmen that are like maybe a year or 2 off. And I don't know where this one stands. So let's do freshman spotlight. And if it's just me, if it's Jared Stormer on his own, I got to talk about a cornerback. Let's talk about the highest rated cornerback from the 2026 class, and that is 6'2", 170-pound Jamarian Vincent out of Waco, Texas. Spent a lot of his junior season in Texas playing quarterback before transitioning to wide receiver, actually. So there's some ball skills here, which excites me. And there was initially some talk about him as like potentially a guy. I look at 170 pounds and I'm skeptical about being a guy this year. He's got to catch up to the Shamari Earls of the world, and could he get over JoJo Edmonds? There's guys ahead of him for sure, and physically ahead of him, but as far as an athlete, he's a good one. He's a really good one. When I went back and watched the tape, there's not a lot of tape of him being a corner because, as I said, he was a quarterback, then he was a wide receiver, but in coverage, keeps his head up. You can see the athleticism. He closes on the ball, and I'm excited about the potential of ball skills, especially when you look at Jair Hill, who I'll kind of compare him to in this segment. I think there's a reason to be excited about him. Now, Jair Hill came in at 6'2", 190. Jair Hill is still at 190 because that's about where you want to be at, if you're at 6'2". So he needs to put on some weight. But if he can get up to 180, 185, not unheard of in one season to put on 10, 15 pounds, I think he can get himself into this conversation here. So his junior season finished with 118 yards, 9 touchdowns, 4 interceptions on 69 of 123 passing. Not really a quarterback prospect, so I'm not too worried about that. A lot of times these guys will play quarterback because they need their best athletes touching the ball every single time. He ran for 1,100 yards and 14 touchdowns, 8 yards per rush, added 34 tackles, 2 tackles for loss, an interception, and a fumble return, and 8 pass breakups on defense. All combined, that's a very, very productive season for Jamarian Vincent. Look, like I mentioned, he's got guys ahead of him that he's got to get out ahead of. But if you see this guy in the field early, I mean, it's going to really shake up the depth chart there. So there's a real chance here. He's highly recruited. My guess would be next year, not this year. Obviously we're going to be losing Zeke Berry and Jair Hill. after this season, no matter how it all plays out. So there's going to be a need next year. Who is that going to be? Is it automatically Shamari Earls? I don't know. Like Shamari Earls could be a guy to watch for a transfer if he's not on the field early and often this year. So I think there is really an opportunity in general in the cornerbacks room here at Michigan, both this year to get on just in either spot duty, mop up duty. It's a tough schedule. I don't know how much mop up, like blowout duty there's going to be. But if he can find a way onto the field early, and that starts with the weight room and getting his body up where it needs to be, I do like the athleticism. I like the fact that there's wide receiver pedigree there. Now, Jair Hill played some wide receiver as well, but we've seen Jair Hill not really develop there in the ball skills aspect. I think Vincent could have that. And at 6'2", if he gets up to that 190 frame, that's exactly where Michigan cornerbacks, that's right in the sweet spot there. And it's kind of a wiry frame right now. And I wouldn't say he's like my style of cornerback. Like I really prefer the Zeke Berries of the world who get up in there and be physical with you and jam you at the line, tackling machines. He's not there yet. He's a little bit more of a project, but the tools are certainly there. The athleticism is certainly there. And he came out of Texas. It's not a place that we recruit a ton of. So I'm excited about this player. Like I said, probably not this year, but in the few opportunities that we have where we get the game out of hand, or God willing, hopefully it's not out of reach the other way, watch him when he gets on the field. Watch him and Shamari Earls, because this is something to start keeping an eye on. Like, who are the cornerbacks of the future, or do we really need to hit the transfer portal? Because, there's going to be a turnover in the defensive backfield, and I'm very interested to see where this goes. So, Jamari and Vincent, I got my eyes on you. All right, moving on. Next segment. Take a drink of the wine here. In between segments, you'll forgive me. I am rocking a solo podcast. The man needs his wine. Much like Tyrion Lannister, I drink and I do segments. All right, next segment. This is a new one. Love this segment. This is just two guys in the corner of a bar talking about dudes that they remember, just naming names. Like, do you remember Theo Ratliff? Can I interest you? Love this segment. This is basically why this podcast started, is Andy and I belong on the corner of a bar somewhere when we are deep in our 60s. If I make it there, he certainly will. This will be what we're doing. We're just going to be sitting in the corner of the bar, naming names. And I've got some names here. So we're doing dudes we miss, but this week with a little twist, guys we could really use this year. So I looked up and down the roster, looked at our spring game draft, and I'm like, who could really help here? Now, it'd be very easy to just be like, Aiden Hutchinson. I'd love to have him on here. Yeah, no doubt. We would all love to have Aiden Hutchinson back on this team. But what about guys that are a little bit more under the radar that we could really use? Let's start on offense, where I went with Mason Cole. He was an early enrollee at Michigan at age 17 and first offensive lineman to start in a season opener on his true freshman season at the left tackle position as a true freshman. This was insane at the time. Then he bounces all over the line there, really one of the only guys that you could count on week in and week out. He was a 3-time All Big Ten honoree. He made 51 consecutive starts along the offensive line, started 13 games at center in 2016 and then moved back to left tackle in 2017. I don't think you understand how rare that is. Like, you'll see guys go from left to right tackle, or maybe from right tackle to right guard. Center to left tackle is insane. Like, that kind of versatility, like, definitely played at some guard as well. And I know you might hear this and be like, well, we're good at tackle and center this year. Doesn't matter. Like, I think Mason Cole could come in, either kick somebody else out. Maybe Guaranara could play guard. I wouldn't be too surprised if you told me that Mason Cole could beat out Jake Guaranara and move Guaranara to guard, or you just put Mason Cole at guard. Regardless, versatility on the offensive line, tried and true. Can't say he was necessarily a winner, but that wasn't on him. That was on the teams that he was on. But Mason Cole himself went out there week in and week out and was absolutely a stalwart. He would really help this team right now. I thought about some other guys here, like maybe you just go grab a true guard, because I think that's really where we could use a guy. Like, maybe just grab John Runyon Jr. Little recent, we mentioned John Runyon Jr. a lot on this, wanted to go back a little further. I think Mason Cole would be a huge, huge upgrade on this offensive line. And this offensive line, which I'm starting to lean more and more towards it's going to be good, I'm not fully there yet on it's going to be good. If we had like a sophomore Mason Cole, I'd be all in. I would be all in. This is going to be a good offensive line. We will figure it out. So I still think we could use one more piece there. He would be an outstanding piece. Okay, let's switch over to the defensive side of the ball. A lot of guys that we could go with here. We've talked ad nauseum about the linebacker position. I mean, if I mention Nathaniel Usu-Boateng one more time, I'm pretty sure someone's going to show up at my door and hit me with a steel bat. Can't do it. Can't talk about him anymore. But I will talk about the linebacker position because I think we could use a guy there. And I'm not going to go with like one of those tweeners. I think we could use some size at the linebacker position. Often forgotten about Mike McCray, two-time All Big Ten honoree. He's 6'4", 242, which is huge for a linebacker. I mean, that's like Derek Moore size. I mean, that is a large, large man. Now, he didn't always play that big. I will have to say, I don't remember Mike McCray and just being like first guy off the bus, like he sets the tone with his physicality. Wasn't quite his game, but he did back it up. He appeared in 38 games, 26 starts at linebacker. He was a team captain. He had a 10 tackle day against Ohio State. That matters to me. 8 solo stops, 2 TFLs in that game. In 2017, 84 tackles, 17 TFLs in 5 sacks. That's exactly what this team needs right now. And then with that size to play right in the middle there and to provide that run wall, I don't know how good our defensive tackles are going to be this year. You would like to have a guy like Mike McCray behind a Mason Graham or a Mozzie Smith or somebody like that, because I don't know that he can necessarily get off of blocks or could get off of blocks and be like a dominant disruptive force at linebacker, but a solid, steady force behind a good defensive line, absolutely. And, maybe that's Nathaniel Stalling, the transfer this year, who's also got good size. But I think Mike McCray would just be a welcome leader, especially if you got maybe later Mike McCray. If you got senior Mike McCray with that leadership and you were able to bring him in at that size with that productivity, that's the exact kind of player this team needs on defense. I think we'd all feel a lot better about the linebacker room. You can give some of these other guys time to step up. It doesn't have to be Nathaniel Stalling. We need you right now. Troy Bowles, it's got to be your best season that you've ever had. Usu-Boateng, my God in heaven, like you've got to hit this year. Take some of the pressure off some of these other guys, get a stalwart in there. So 2 guys that I miss, Mason Cole and Mike McCray. All right, getting down to the last couple segments in the all segment episode. How about a new segment here? I was thinking about this one when I was trying to come up with something, just it's a little dry, we'll say, for college football coverage now, and that's going to last until late July, probably, when you'll start hearing some stuff again. So I was like, just kind of thinking about it, and I had some intrusive thoughts starting to creep in. So how about intrusive thoughts? All right. Intrusive thought number 1. This one is about as simple as it gets. What if Bryce Underwood isn't good? Like, what if that's just the case? Like, what if it had nothing to do with the god-awful situation that he was put in last year? What if Bryce Underwood is just not going to live up to his recruiting rankings? He certainly wouldn't be the first one that didn't. There's been any number of them, take your pick, of highly recruited 5-star, high 4-star guys that are either bouncing around or just never lived up to their billings. I think of the late Ryan Mallett, who was a very high star, highly recruited 5-star, brought into Michigan. And Ryan Mallett just didn't have that kind of career. I think he ended up transferring to Arkansas, if I'm not mistaken, did end up getting drafted. But I mean, this was supposed to be like the next big thing. And that happens more time than not. Like, honestly, you're more likely to be a Ryan Mallett than you are to be an Arch Manning as a 5-star. And even Arch Manning, we'll see what he does this year. So Bryce Underwood's future is yet to be written. And nothing about last year necessarily inspired the confidence. The turnovers have got to come down. The completion percentage has got to go up. The decision-making has got to go up. The pocket presence, the awareness, the internal decision making, the internal clock of when do I need to run and when do I need to kind of conserve my legs and when do I need to get out of bounds. There's a lot that needs to improve. It's not just like 1 or 2 tweaks here. He's got a long way to go, and everyone kind of expects him to make that early jump. He's not trending that way, like where you're telling me next year is his last year and then he's jumping early. Brother, I don't see that. Like, he's got a long way to go, and that very well could happen this year. That's why it's intrusive thoughts. Like, I think it is probably more situational what happened last year. I mean, look at that absolute dumpster fire that was Michigan football, and the fact that there wasn't a designated quarterback coach, and the fact that your best wide receiver by far was a true freshman still trying to figure it out there. The fact that the offensive line was okay, not great. Pick any number of reasons. But I do think he will get it figured out. I think this is just an intrusive thought. I do think he's very good at quarterback, at playing quarterback. Let me rephrase that. I do think he has the tools to be successful at quarterback. I don't necessarily know that I've seen anything that says like he's a great quarterback. He's going to be run more in Jason Beck's offense and Kyle Whittingham's offense, period. Point blank. He's going to run the football more. And just having that with an improved offensive line, that running game, and more outlets at wide receiver, he's going to improve this year. I would bet the mortgage that it's better numbers than last year. Is it good enough? Is it good enough this year to warrant what they're paying him? Are Michigan fans going to be clamoring for year 3 of Bryce Underwood after this season? It's a real discussion, and that's why it's intrusive thought number 1. All right, intrusive thought number 2. What if the offensive line doesn't come together this year? This one, I really go back and forth on. Kind of talked about it where I was like, it'd be great to have Mason Cole come in here. Jim Harding is an incredible offensive line coach. Like I trust in him. My trust in him is marrow deep to get it figured out with all the talent on there. But it could go the other way. Like you've got Andy Babs coming off of a pretty major knee injury. You know, you've got guys that were figuring it out last year, we'll say, with like Blake Frazier, and Evan Link was still figuring it out, and Sprague was still kind of figuring it out. The fact that they don't really know where the best place to play all these guys is and what the best 5 is. And like we've heard that Guaranara is the best guy right now on the offensive line. I'll buy that. Jake Guaranara was pretty good last year, but pretty good is about as far as I'll go. I won't go great. So if that's your best offensive lineman and we're still figuring things out, it's May 11th. And that's partly why I'm like, I'm not going to worry about this one. I'm betting in the talent. I'm betting in this offensive coaching staff. I'm betting in the traits of a lot of these guys. But it's not just 1 or 2 things that need to click. You know, we've had years where we come in and we're like, we got to get left guard figured out. I think we still got to get both guards figured out. I think there's definitely at least 1 good tackle on this team. I would bet my life on that. I think there's probably 2 good tackles on this team as it stands right now. But who's kicking in? Who's manning the guard spots? And then we need to start getting time on task, you know, with Andy Babs in there. Is it going to be Andy Babs, or is it Sprague and Frazier at either tackle position? Or does Link beat one of those guys out? There's questions here. And it all starts there because we are going to run the hell out of the ball, brother. I promise you that. And Bryce Underwood, we just talked about him. Like he has got to be able to take a step forward. In order to do that, he needs time in the pocket. So this is a big one. I'm less concerned about this one. Again, it's an intrusive thought. But if it doesn't happen, this season's going to be over before it starts. Like if it takes 6 games for us and we're still figuring it out and moving guys up and down, and Andy Babs can't go because, you know, the knee injury hasn't fully healed, or he's not ready because there's not enough time on task, I just don't know that the offense will get going in the way that it needs to be. But I have this one as a lower concern than the Bryce Underwood concern. All right, last intrusive thought, and let's do a positive one. What if Michigan beats Oklahoma convincingly early on in the season? Just announced that that's going to be a noon game in the Big House. We love this. Home confines, when a college football game is supposed to be played. And I think Oklahoma's going to be good. Yet again, Mateer's coming back. That thumb injury that kind of hampered him last year should be all but healed. This is going to be a real test. I would imagine it's the big noon game, and there'll be a lot of eyes on this one. There's a lot of good football early on next year in this coming season. But nonetheless, there'll be a lot of eyes on this one. And this one kind of last year, we weren't too worried about. It's like if you drop Oklahoma, like doesn't really matter. Big Ten's still ahead of you. Same thing applies here. It's not going to be the end of the world if we drop Oklahoma. But what if we win it? And what if we win it convincingly? And what if we win it because our offense looks dominant against this Brett Venables defense? I think that that's going to change the whole outlook of the Big Ten because we know the talent on this offense. And if the national media all of a sudden sees like, okay, Michigan's got a quarterback, Michigan's running the ball, and they've recruited extremely well, they just beat the brakes off Oklahoma, I don't think we're ever going to be favored against, let's say, Oregon and Ohio State. I don't think that'll shift. but could the thinking shift that like, oh, Michigan might be able to get a couple of these here in the middle of their schedule? And like, maybe this is a 9-win team, not an 8-win team. And like, maybe it's a 10-win team. And then all of a sudden we're flirting with getting into that playoff there. I think the Oklahoma game could be a great launching point. It's not the be all end all, but man, if we can win that game, sky's the limit. So those are my intrusive thoughts here in the spring, quite a few months away from actual football right now. And the last segment, I got to do it because we do drafts on this pod. We do them often. We are supporters of it, but I'm not going to do a football or a basketball or any type of sports draft without my better half here. And in honor of May the 4th, which just recently passed last week, and my good friend Andy finally watching the show Andor, I'm going to do the top Star Wars watches as I see them right now. You are allowed to disagree with me. You are allowed to yell at me for these. I know there's a lot of contention around Star Wars. We'll go through these pretty quickly. All right. At number 10, I have Attack of the Clones. Some people really hate the prequel trilogy. I was freaking 12 years old when Phantom Menace came out, man. Like, that was the world to me. We were there opening night. I got my freaking lightsaber. Best time to be a Star Wars fan is right there, that 9 to 12, 9 to 14 range. That's the sweet spot. So I always have a soft spot for these ones, even if on rewatch, some of them aren't that good. We'll stick with the prequel trilogy at number 9. I'll go Revenge of the Sith. Some people really ride for this one. There's actually some really good stuff in Revenge of the Sith. I put a little bit lower because the dialogue is pretty wooden. I don't know how fun it is to rewatch, but there is some really good stuff in here. At number 8, I've got Phantom Menace. This is where people always give me a lot of grief. They give me a lot of shit, and I understand. It is a bad movie. It is objectively bad, but I come to the defense of it because, this is my podcast, our podcast, and this is what we do. The reason being, the hype coming out. 1999, I'm 12 years old. I'm seeing it with my family. To me, it was the greatest movie ever made. It wasn't until like the third time I watched it, it was like, boy, this is not great. And there's some problematic accents with some of these trade viceroys. There was a lot that's really problematic about this. The kid acting, Jar Jar Binks, my God in heaven, what are we doing here? But it's got pod racing. It's got the Duel of the Fates. It's got Liam Neeson. It's got Ewan McGregor. It's got Darth Maul. It's got one of the best scores of any of them. There's enough good that I still enjoy it. If you're going to rewatch it, you might have to just like skip through the whole Gungan City stuff. Pretty bad, but I ride for it. I stand for it. And I stand by having it as my favorite of those other ones. Next up at number 7, I've got Mandalorian season 1. Kind of cheating here. If you take all Mandalorian, I still might put it here just because seasons 1 and 2 are really good. Kind of fell off there. But the episodic Western thing that they had going on for a while, very enjoyable. I really liked it. And there's a lot of the shows that just don't hit for me. So Mandalorian season 1 does. At number 6, I got The Force Awakens. It is a complete ripoff of A New Hope. They just did the thing again. Fine. That's all we wanted. Like, at that point, we're just like, hey, can we get a good Star Wars movie? We'll go see it. They gave it to us. There's some good moments in there. I don't blame the characters or the actors for how bad the script was for what happened with the rest of that. And the rest of that trilogy will not be mentioned on this list for me. Don't really care for the other two. But this one's a fun watch, Force Awakens. Now there's a tier break. Everything above this, I think, is legitimately awesome. So those other stuff I think is pretty good. Now we're getting into the awesome. And at number 5, I've got Rogue One. Just a lot of fun. It's a little cobbled together. Like, why are all these characters together? But you don't really care. You're in that Star Wars world. It's very tactile. It feels like, oh, we're back in that original world. And they were very conscious of like making it seem like you were back in that Star Wars that you grew up with as a kid. And then the fact that it leads right into Vader just absolutely going ham on that ship and just cutting people up. Excellent stuff. And it brought us Andor, which probably going to be mentioned here. At number 4, I've got Return of the Jedi. I never understood the hate for Return of the Jedi. I guess when you go back and rewatch it now, the Ewoks kind of don't fit with the rest of the vibe. I still love it, man. Like, I love being on the forest moon of Endor. You get a lot of Han Solo, man. Yeah, it's good. I'm sorry. Jabba's palace, love it. Everything at Jabba's palace is unassailable. Incredible stuff there. I love Return of the Jedi. At number 3, Andor. We're going to talk about this next week, so I'm going to hold off a little bit. We're doing a little catch up episode. We're going to talk about Andor. This is one of the best Star Wars properties ever made. We are truly in the elite level now. This is Star Wars for adults. This is some of the best storytelling you'll find, period, in anything. I would put it up there with the best TV that's been on ever for me. I absolutely love it. I'm going to save some of that, though. At number 2, A New Hope. And at number 1, Empire Strikes Back. The OGs. Now, the only reason I would even consider putting Andor above them is because you can't get access to the unedited ones where George Lucas decided to go back and CGI his own movies. That should be illegal. And now you can't even get those unaltered ones, which I absolutely hate. Totally throws you off when you're watching a movie from 1977 and then there's like a 1999 VFX just bantha CGI'd in there. Like, what is that? What are we doing? That's the only negative thing I have to say about perfect movies. I had these on VHS as a kid and I watched them weekly. I would watch the trilogy once a month. Super important to me. I love Star Wars. Hopefully Mandalorian and Grogu is good. We'll probably even talk a little more about it next week when my fearless co-host Andy Bailey is back next week. Can't wait. We'll catch up with you next week. Got a lot that we want to cover. This was the all segment episode. I need another drink of wine and a stogie to celebrate what was a fun episode, but off-season content time now. We are officially in the doldrums. We'll do some Pistons content for you here and there, keep you up to date on that. I think when Andy comes back, would love to get his thoughts on the draft. As the NBA draft comes closer, we'll talk about where Amara and Yaks and Mojo might end up and things like that. But it's been quiet on the football front, so we will create content as we see fit because that's what we do here on Out of the Blue. That's going to do it for us here tonight. Thank you, producer Tony, for your time, efforts, and energy. I am Jared and would like to remind you that wherever you go, go blue.